Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Today we will be talking about object-oriented programming in Python. So, this subject is very important and sooner or later you will be forced to actually learn this because most, if not all, of the higher level applications that you will be building will require you to build your own objects, to define your own classes, etc, etc. So let's start by defining actually what those objects are going to be. So I've written a comment here saying that everything is an object in Python, and that is true. So an object by definition is an instance of a class. Now this might not be the definition you were hoping for at the beginning, but rest assured I will explain this way more thoroughly right now. So I'm sure you know about variables in Python, like x equals 4, like name equals Tony, I forgot how to spell this, and is underscore rich might be a boolean saying like false. Okay, so these are very basic things, variables, I'm sure you know this. Let's print out the type of these variables. Type of x, print type of name, and print type of is rich. Okay, so this is going to show us something like this. Now, I'm sure you know x is an int, name is a string, and is rich is a boolean. So the type function, what it prints right here, is class int. Now, this word here, class, this will be very important in this video and generally in object-oriented programming, because this tells us that x right here, this variable x, it was created by this class. It was created by class int. So we've been saying all the time that x is an int. Well, x was created by the int class. Just like name, a string, was created by the string class, and is rich is created by the boolean class. So classes right here create variables for us, and in fact they create objects for us. So variables here, they are like storing areas for objects. These here are objects. This is an int object, this is a string object, and this is a boolean object. So once again, classes, they create objects for us. Objects are instances of classes. Okay, great. So we've got these three basic examples here, and since I've written something like this, everything is an object in Python. Okay, let's try a function. Let's see, def foo, and foo will just return 0, a very basic function. Okay, so let's see, print the type of foo. Now we're going to write type of foo without parentheses, because if we do this, we are going to call this function. So we're going to get 0 back, meaning this foo with 2 parentheses is the same thing as the thing it returns. So it's 0. And if we do it without parentheses, well then we're talking about this function. Foo without parentheses is this whole function. So if we run the code again, well, the fourth print statement here, it prints out class function. So function is actually an object that was created by this class function. So indeed, we're closer to this statement that everything is an object in Python. Okay, great. So we've seen now this basic example that everything here is an object, and that an object is something that's created by a specific class. One more thing we want to see are methods, because I'm sure you've used these a lot so far. So let's say again that name equals Tony. We're going to be working with strings right now, and we're going to say uppercase equals name dot upper. Now you might have seen this this thing before. This is called a method. A method is a function because look, it's something followed by parentheses. Now when you have something with parentheses, it's a function. However, we don't have a function like this. We don't have a upper function, and now it's an error. This upper function is contained inside this object. So if a function is like inside this Tony object, this string object, then it's called a method. So this is a method. Now a method is not the same as a function, because functions are defined like this, like before, the foo, pass, something like that, and methods, they are defined inside this function, this class, sorry. So yeah, this is a different thing, and of course if we print uppercase, then we're gonna get something like this. So once again, a method is a function that's inside a class or inside an object. Now what we're going to do right now is creating our own class. So we can do this. This is the basic idea of object-oriented programming, is that we can create our own class. So just like my autocomplete engine here suggests, let's create a class person. Great. So this is the syntax. We're saying class person, and what we're going to do here, don't mind this, we're going to talk about this later. We're going to create a function inside. I'm going to say def, and we're going to say say hello. This is going to be a very simple function, and you might notice something like that this I'm using PyCharm, by the way, the code editor, and whenever I define a method, meaning whenever I define a function inside a class, I automatically get a parameter here. Automatically get this pink parameter self. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, okay? Because this is a little more complicated. So, what can we do with this? We said class person, and this person has one method, one function that prints out hello. And how can we use this? So let's say p equals person. Person with two parentheses. Now, what's happening here? This statement says that we want to create a person object. So it's just like we would say name equals like str parentheses and something like that. Okay, so like str of, I don't know, name. Now this makes no sense right now what I've written, because we can just write name, sorry, like this. But when we're creating our own objects, our own classes, then we have to do it this way. We have to write the class name and call it. So p is a person class. We can now write p dot say hello. Now you see that my autocomplete already sees this, sees the say hello, because the say hello is a method of class person. Invoking it, of course, writes out hello world. Okay, this is a very basic example, and the next thing I'm going to talk about is the init method. So the init method is actually like the most important thing you're going to learn when it comes to object-oriented programming. Okay, and I'll show you why in just a second. Let's delete this basic method right here. And my autocomplete engine suggested at the very beginning, after writing class person, that I write, exactly, something like this. We're going to say def init. Now this init has 2 underscores on the left and 2 underscores on the right. Okay, when I hit parentheses, I'm going to get self automatically, like I said before. And now, okay, let's write pass for a moment. So what this does is basically person. This allows us to pass some arguments into this call, into these two parentheses. So what do we want to pass in here? So let's think for a moment what a person actually has. I mean, what can define a person? So the first thing that you may have seen before is a name, and it even suggested me a name. So let's say name. We're going to take a name as an argument. We're going to also take an age as an argument. Okay, sure. And we can also take an email. Why not? So we're going to say define init, self has to be here, name, age, email. Okay, so now this this highlights my parentheses here that we have undefined parameter name, undefined parameter age, and undefined parameter email. Because whenever we call the class right here, we need to pass everything that we specified here. Okay, so let's pass Tony, let's pass 21, and let's pass an Tony at example.com. Okay, great. So right now this won't do anything because we have this pass right here. But what we do in init methods almost always is we write something like this. We write self.name equals name, self.age equals age, and self.email equals email. Okay, so now this might be a little confusing to you if you're just starting out with object-oriented programming. But basically, what this does, well, we put this Tony, meaning this name, into something called self.name. We put the age into something called self.age, and we put the email into something called self.email. Now this self.name, we can actually access it from outside this class, meaning we can actually access the name, print p.name. So this name that we have after the self is actually the thing that we're going to get out writing p.name. So if we do this, then we get Tony back. That's amazing because this is exactly what we passed in here. So now whenever we write p.name, we're gonna get the thing we passed in as our first parameter. Same thing with age, p.age, we get 21, and with email, you can believe me, it's the same thing. Now, a cool thing here is that this does not have to be the same name as this. We can write self.age underscore, I don't know, total. I'm just making stuff up right now. So we'll have to write p.age underscore total, because this is the thing that is preceded by this self keyword right here. So if we have self.age total, when we try to access this, outside this class with p, we're gonna have to write p.age total. So whenever we write a dot, this has to be the same thing as the one with self. Okay, I hope this is kind of clear right now. So we've passed all these arguments into self. We can make some additional methods right now. For example, df, we can make set underscore age, and we're gonna get self automatically, and we can write something like new underscore age, okay? And what we're gonna do here is basically set self dot, okay, let's just make it age again, self.age equals new underscore age. Okay, we can make it this way. We can also make a method called get age self, and we're going to return whatever we have stored in self.age. Self.age, great. And one more cool method I would like to do here is send underscore email. Now we can have more arguments in here. Send email to a receiver, and we can have a subject, why not, and a message, exactly. So we're going to basically just print out what was sent. So print f string sending email from self.email to receiver, and we're gonna say print f this way, subject and message. Okay, so what I've done here is I'm just going to print two things on the screen. The first thing we're going to print, now this is an f string. If you're not familiar with f strings, it basically allows you to insert like variables into a string. So like from self.email, instead of this, we're going to just pass this thing right here. Yeah? So we're going to send an email from the thing that we passed in here, and we're going to send it to, well, we have a argument right here. So if you want to see this in action, we're going to say p.send email, and we're going to say mark, for example, at example.com. We're going to have a subject of hello world and a message called this is a test email. If we run this program, we're going to have this sending email from Tony at example.com, meaning from self.email, and the rest is basically the arguments we pass. So we're going to send it to Mark, and we're going to send hello world and this thing. Okay, so one more thing I forgot to mention before is what will happen if we print the type of p. The type of p, meaning we've created a person object, right? So when we print the type of p, we should get something like class person, and we did. Now this thing here is called a module. This is the module it was created in. You shouldn't worry about this for now. I might make a video about these things later, but what's important is that we have class person. So this object was actually created by the person class that we defined earlier. Okay, great. So what else can we do here? We can create a new person, for example, M, that will stand for Mark, person, Mark 30 and Mark at example.com, and we can actually interact between these two objects. So we can say m.send email. We're gonna send an email from Mark to who? We're gonna send it to Tony. Okay, so we're gonna set the receiver as p.email, because this is the email of Tony, right? This is going to be this, and we're going to send a message called happy birthday. I don't know, happy birthday, and the message body is going to be happy birthday Tony. It's crazy you're p.age years old. Okay, so we're going to send an email from Mark. This is the one, sending from Mark example.com to Tony at example.com, and it's happy birthday Tony. It's so crazy that you're 21 years old. So inside this f string right here, inside this string, we're going to insert a variable. We're going to insert p.age. We're going to insert the age element of p. Okay, so one last thing I would like to say before we move on is what's with this self? Why is this self in every single method? Well, this self, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done this. This self is like the object that is calling the method. Okay, so every time here you see that inside this we have 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters, and for example here outside we have 1, we have 2, and we have 3 parameters, not 4. So the self here that's being inserted is actually this. This is the self that's being passed as the first argument. So it's basically the object that is calling the function. So when we do this, p.send email, so this is receiver, this is subject, this is message, and self is going to be this. Okay, so when m calls this method, this m is going to be self, and the rest is going to be the things that we added here. Okay, so I hope that this cleared out a bit what this self keyword is. But one last thing I would like to do before we end, because this is okay, I guess, this explanation of a class, but I would like to show you the power of creating these classes and these objects. So let's create another class. We're going to say class address, and we're going to say def init. Okay, so inside init, like I said before, we're going to pass what an address actually has, and this is a house address. So a house address should have a street, it should have a city, it should have a house number. Okay. It's a very simple address. I'm not going to be very specific about it, and just like before, so an address has a street, so we're going to say self.street equals street. So now this street attribute is going to be defining an address object. Same thing, we're going to say self.city equals city, and self.house number equals to house number. Okay, so what else can we do here? Inside this init method, we can add some more attributes. We can add an attribute saying self.locators. Okay, and this will be an empty list for now, because for now nobody lives here, but later on we'll add some functionality to add some locators here. Okay, so let's actually do it right now. So let's say def add locator. So it's going to take self, of course, and it's going to take a locator. So we're going to say self.locators, meaning we're going to access this list right here, and we're going to append a locator. It's going to be very, very simple. So what I wanted to mention, I forgot already if I did, is that right here we can have more attributes than we're passing inside this method. So we have 3 attributes here. Of course, we're not counting self right now, and we're going to have 4 extra attributes. So this locator wasn't passed inside here. All right, so we have, okay, we don't have Mark and Tony right there, so let's create p equals person, John, age maybe 31, and let's just leave this email. M equals person, Mary, she's going to be 32, for example, why not? And PM, and let's also add K equals person, not John this time, but Jack, maybe. He's going to be 15 years old, and he's going to have an email of, I don't know, email as well. Okay, so this email doesn't really matter right now. What matters is that we can actually make an address. We can make a house right there. We can make an ADDR variable. It's going to be an address, and it's going to be, for example, Street Bronowicka in Poland, here in Krakow. That's where I live. Bronowicka, we're going to say Krakow. And we're going to say, what's the house number? I don't know, let's say 1000, something that's out of this world, okay? So this is going to be our address object. So we're going to have all of this functionality in this variable. So now, well, let's see, print addr.locators. So for now, nobody lives here. But if we call addr.addLocator, no, not locator, that's not what I meant. We're gonna add a p. So and we're going to add m and add k. Why not? addr.add locator k. Okay, so we're going to add all these 3 people in here. And this is very powerful actually, because we don't have to create some crazy structures like a list with a tuple that has a name, for example, John right there, John, age 21 or something like that. We have an object. We have a person object that is going to define a locator here, a person who's living inside the house. That's defined by this address, of course. Okay, so we're going to add one last method, def who lives here. Okay, so it's going to just take self, meaning when we call it outside, it's not going to take anything. When we define who lives, we're going to say something like that. We're going to say for locator in self.locators. Okay, so locator is a person object. So if we want to write out who lives here, we're going to say, okay, print locator dot name. Okay, dot name, because this locator is a person object. This is what we just said, that we're going to be adding people inside this address by add locator. So if we want to print who lives, we're going to print the names of these people. So each person has a name, a self.name. So now we have locator.name. That's the same as the self.name before. So since we added 3 people here, and we call addr.wholives, well, we should get John, Mary, and Jack. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.